up, guys? Schmidt here. Welcome back to another video, and today I want to talk to you guys about my changes that I would like to see made to Call of Duty's Blackout mode. So we all know the Blackout beta just ended about a few days ago, and I gave my review on it just a few days ago. Talked about the game, the things I liked, my overall view on it, but I also wanted to make a video giving my critiques, my criticisms, my things that I want to see changed, how I want to see some things tuned, because while Blackout was a lot of fun, and I think it's going to be a very big thing for Call of Duty this year, there are some things I would like to see changed. It's not perfect. And so I've got a list of things that I want to go through with you guys. Some things that I've thought of off the top of my head. I've also seen some other critiques and other reviews and stuff of some things that other people didn't like. Just to kind of pick out some things because you can't really remember everything. So I wanted to get some ideas from other people as well. Kind of bounce some off, especially some that I agreed with. And so I've got a list that I want to go through. So let's get into it. Firstly, I want to start off with one of the more popular things that people want to see changed with Blackout, that being the looting. Now, this is something that has gotten an upgrade in the beta already, and it's going to continue to get upgrades here before launch. But with the looting, I obviously want to see it faster and not have to look as precisely toward the item. Treyarch's already said that they're going to be working on that, but that is one of my critiques from the beta. There's obviously some glitches with the stash bags and how they work right now to where they can get stuck. I'm expecting that to be fixed as well. That's not a huge thing, but another thing that I noticed. One of the things that I would like to see by going through the stash bag, so the death stash, after you kill somebody, you get to go through their loot. One of the things that I would like to see changed is for the ammo. I would like just the option to grab all the ammo instead of having to select all of it individually. And the reason for this is, I mean, a lot of people want auto ammo pickup. I mean, it's kind of hard to do that with a death stash anyway, and I don't know if I totally agree with there needing to be auto ammo pickup. But since there's no limit on how much ammo you can carry, as far as like taking an inventory spot, obviously it's capped at a certain point for the number of bullets that you can take, but it's not like it takes up an inventory slot by taking some bullets rather than others. You can take all of whatever kind of bullet you want, and it doesn't take up inventory slots. So to me, it's like, obviously I would want all the ammo in the bag. Why would I have to go through and select all, I think there's 8 ammo types in the game. Why would I want to go through and select all of them and say that I want them? Obviously, I'm going to want them all because it doesn't hurt me to take them all. I think, and just for simplicity's sake, that we should just be able to, you know, scroll down to the all ammo option and make that a thing and just take all the ammo at once. I don't feel like we should have to go through all the ammo types and select them individually for what we want. The next big thing I would want to see changed, I don't know if they'll do this or not, but I want the way you go through the death stash changes just a full-on grid like it is on PC. I don't want to have to cycle through a bag. I want to see the entire menu of what they have right in front of me and just be able to go through and see it in a better looking list rather than just a straight line thing of going through the bag. Now, at first, I didn't really want this. I was fine with the way they did it. And then I remembered that Black Ops 4 has introduced this cursor system even on console. So you guys know that as well as scrolling through things with the D-pad in all the menus, everything for Call of Duty Black Ops 4, you can also use a cursor similar to what you would have on PC, but you control it with a joystick and you can move it around, and it makes things a lot easier to get through rather than scrolling through stuff on a D-pad. Since we have that, I think it makes sense that if we're going to open somebody's stash, to just be able to use the cursor and quickly grab everything, and then you can just separate them into different categories. So you have weapons, ammo, perks, health, all that stuff. You can divide it all into separate vertical categories, and we can just go right to what we want and grab that much quicker rather than going through that straight line thing. Next, a quick one for perks. I've seen a lot of people talk about this too. I think they need to be color coded. I think right now they're all green except for engineer is gray. I don't have a clue why that is, but it would just make it easier to kind of look at a perk and know right away what it is. Otherwise, you kind of have to look at it for a minute, and it's kind of already a little bit difficult to remember all the perks and what they do right off the bat anyway. But even once you do that, it would just be a lot easier to know what they were if they were color coded. Next thing I'd like to see change is the quick menu. So you guys know on console, if you hit the D-pad up, it'll bring up a little quick menu to where you can cycle through your medical stuff on the left, your perks in the middle, and your equipment on the right side. I would like to see a little thing added in there to where it would be easier to get from one side of that list to the other without having to hit the D-pad button all the way over that many times. So since they're separated in categories, why don't we let L1 and R1 or LB and RB on Xbox be able to just flip through those categories quicker rather than go all the way from maybe the 4 or 5 pieces of equipment you have all the way down on the other end to switch from first aid to med kits or something like that. Like, why should we have to scroll all the way? I feel like we should just be able to bumper through each category how they work. Next thing is another pretty big thing that a lot of people talked about, which is sound. The sound had some weird directional issues. I heard it was kind of console specific. If you had one of the more upper tier consoles, so like a PS4 Pro and Xbox One X, you didn't really see this as much, and I don't remember if it was that much of an issue on PC or not, but I know in like some of the older consoles that the sound could be kind of messed up. Sometimes it wouldn't even work right. Even people that didn't have dead silence, sometimes you wouldn't hear them. And just so tuning the direction and also the sound levels on that, I know that's something that they put in their focus to have out and ready for launch. And then, you know, teammate steps are very loud. Again, this is another thing that detailed they're working on. As well as like the punches in the pregame lobby, because my god, that drove me. Now, that had to be one of the loudest things in the game, was getting punched by people in the pregame lobby, and for some reason people are just obsessed with wanting to punch somebody else in a pregame lobby, even though it does absolutely nothing except make an obnoxious noise. Alright, getting here with weapons. This is something that I want to see change, because I had probably one of the biggest problems with this of anything in the Blackout beta. With attachments and swapping weapons that have attachments on them, I would like to see this done a little more efficient way. Now, I did figure out one way that I don't know a lot of people know about. If you hover open your weapon, when you open the inventory menu, if you go up to your weapon, you can drop and detach all items. So then you can swap a weapon after that and then just re-pick up all those attachments and put them on the gun, assuming they work. I personally think that if you have a Vapor, for instance, and a Maddox is laying on the ground, you know, they're pretty similar weapons, but maybe just prefer the Maddox for whatever reason. If I go to swap those two weapons, I feel like all the attachments that link with that weapon, so if I've got a red dot and a quick draw and like a fast mag on my Vapor, I'm pretty sure all those attachments are able to go on the Maddox as well. I know that some of them are a little different, but assuming for the sake of this that all those attachments also can go on the Maddox and there's not an issue there, I think they should automatically auto swap to the Maddox. I shouldn't have to, you know, drop and detach and then re-pick up all those attachments. It's just an extra step that I don't feel needs to be there. So I feel like all compatible attachments between swapping two weapons should automatically go to that weapon you pick up. And then all the attachments that don't fit that, so if you're swapping from like an AR to a sniper, obviously all those same attachments aren't going to work on that gun. All of them that don't work, I feel like, should just be dropped to the ground, and then you can decide what to do with them from there. That's just another one of those things that's like maybe not a huge deal. Like, it's not the most massive thing in the world to have to drop and detach all your attachments, then re-pick them up, but it's just something to just speed up the pace of a game just by a little bit. It's just an extra thing that I don't feel like needs to be in there for a process. Alright, this is kind of a weird one, and I don't know how they would do this, but I would like for them to find a way to be able to make use of weapons that are more high recoil and high damage, because right now it seems as though all of the low recoil weapons in the game kind of dominate it, and it makes sense because the map is huge. It's obviously bigger than anything we've ever seen in Call of Duty, so to have something like an ICR or a Vapor as your AR that don't really kick too much, they're fairly accurate. The ICR is one of my favorite weapons to use because you can, you know, trigger tap that thing across the map, not necessarily hold it down because it will start to kick a little bit at ranges, but the ICR is a very low recoil gun. If you just trigger tap that thing across the map, you're not really going to have too many issues. But running a gun like the Rampart, for instance, is kind of, there's no real reason to run the Rampart, and the Rampart is one of my favorite guns for multiplayer. I would say that was probably top 2 or 3 favorite guns that I love to use in multiplayer. But for me, it doesn't really have a use in Blackout because, yeah, it can do a lot of damage, but it's got a lot of recoil, and it's a gun that is not compatible with a foregrip, so you can't even reduce that. Another gun that's kind of similar to it is the KN57, so it takes the same type of ammo that 7.62, so it is more of a high damage weapon, but the KN does not really kick that much at all. The Rampart kicks a ton, and so to me, I don't know, I would just like for them to find a way to make those guns that are high recoil, but they're high damage, which is something that makes sense for MP to have. But in Blackout, it's just like there's no reason to get a little bit extra weapon damage if it's a gun that you can't control outside of, you know, small engagements. And in BR, you're not going to get a lot of those. All right, these next few are buffs and nerfs I would like to see to certain stuff in the game. Starting off with suppressors and extended barrels. I did not realize how big of an effect these things had. I felt that they would have some kind of an effect, but Drifter actually did a pretty good breakdown. I mean, he didn't go super in-depth with it, but he did kind of explain and show some clips, and it brought to life some situations that I had playing Blackout that I didn't realize could have been due to the attachments I was running. So I liked running a suppressor. Obviously in a BR, you know, if you want to take some shots across the map, it's better if they don't really know where the shots are coming from, right? But it turns out that the suppressor actually has a pretty good drop-off for your bullets, so you may have to lead it a little bit more, you may experience a little bit more bullet drop. You may have to account for those things more with a suppressor, and with the extended barrel, it's like the complete 180 opposite. It's going to make it much more near a hit scan thing, not quite to the extent, but it's going to have that kind of effect, and I feel like that they were just overdone. The extended barrel was too good, the suppressor was like pretty bad, and I didn't really realize that until kind of thinking back to some situations that I had. And so I would kind of look at those if I was Treyarch, just kind of make sure they're in line with what they want. I mean, I guess if that's what they want, then that's how they do it. But the extended barrel, I would think, would be one of the better attachments now thinking back to some of the engagements I had. And the suppressor, honestly, I don't think would be that viable now that I think about it. I mean, obviously, there's still uses like for the suppressor, obviously, even though it will have weapon drop, but it's just something I would monitor if I was Treyarch. Like, keep an eye on those, make sure that they're not, you know, the extended barrel being too good and the suppressor being too bad, because they need to have their viabilities in there. Also, dead silence. Drifter talked about this one, and, you know, I didn't really want to, I kind of had the same thought process, but I didn't want to really bring it up as something that I thought would be possible, and I don't think it will happen, but dead silence might need to be taken out of Blackout. I momentarily thought about this and just kind of threw it out the window because I'm like, it's not going to happen, but I saw Drifter's video talking about it, and I have to agree. I don't think that Dead Silence should be in Blackout. I mean, name me a better perk that you found in Blackout by playing that would be a better option. I mean, Paranoia is very good, Awareness can be good, but Dead Silence, I mean, the footsteps are a huge part in a BR. And I have something in there to where you have one life and something that powerful that just kind of comes down to RNG as far as finding it. I don't feel like you should be able to run around the map all crazy like with no penalty, with no one ever being able to hear you. I feel like that's just kind of over the top. I mean, you already have one way to mute your footsteps, and that's by crouching. I feel like that's already a good way that'll, like, okay, you don't want anybody to hear you, you're going to have to crouch and risk your speed and kind of put yourself out there more, rather than having that perk. I mean, I get it's a perk, it's a limited time thing. I just feel like it can cause too many inconsistencies. I don't know. Again, it's not something I wanted to throw out there, but after watching Drifter's video, I kind of have to agree that maybe it shouldn't be in there. Again, I agree. I'm kind of fine with Awareness because you can already hear footsteps really well anyways. It's just going to extend that a little bit and make it easier to hear. Whereas Dead Silence is just going to give you this massive, like, uncounterable advantage. And no, from what I've heard, Awareness does not counter Dead Silence in Blackout. And getting to the last thing, by far the biggest topic everybody has talked about with Blackout, that being the armor. Now, again, after the nerfs to level 3 armor in the beta, I didn't feel like it was too much of an issue as far as what it protected you from, but I did feel like it may have been just a smidge too easy to find, just for how much that thing protects you and how good that piece of armor is. My solution for it, as far as, you know, kind of balancing it out, is not necessarily to make it less good or less effective, but rather to make it only available in supply drops. Basically, right now, what you can do is, if you're lucky enough to find level 3 armor just sitting around somewhere, that right alone, even if you don't have the greatest gun skill, that alone can win you a gunfight. And so it can kind of encourage people to just kind of sit in a spot, wait for people to come, because they're going to win a gunfight, and the less engagements that they get in, they don't have the risk of losing that armor, because you do lose armor in gunfights if you get it shot off. I feel like it needs to be supply drop only. Like, okay, look, if you want to have, like, the opportunity to get that piece of armor, to get something that's that good, I feel like you have to put yourself out there and put yourself in that risk of going to get that drop. To be able to get that high tier of armor. Then it keeps people moving, it keeps people having to go for it, rather than just kind of, you know, maybe they spawn on it, they land on it, and it's right there, and they can just kind of hide and sit around. Because, I mean, if you think about it, the only way to get a war machine in this game is to get it through a supply drop, and that thing is very good. That thing alone can win you a game of Blackout, and the only way to get it is through a supply drop. I feel like level 3 armor should be the same. And the last thing, this is a change I feel like needs to be implemented in some way into Blackout. There needs to be some way to replenish your armor, or do something to the effect of, I don't know. I guess I'll explain the situation, then you guys can let me know what you think. So by getting gunfights in this game, if you have armor on and you get into a gunfight where you're both putting on good shots, it's a pretty good gunfight. Even if you come out victorious, chances are you lost your armor. And while armor is a decently common thing in Blackout, it's not something that's just available everywhere like guns. You can find guns pretty much anywhere for the most part. Armor's a pretty important thing to have in Blackout, and it's not just all that easily available everywhere. And so you're almost hurting yourself by getting in gunfights because you risk losing your armor, which is something that you're going to need in the end game if you want to win. I mean, you can win without armor in the end game, but it's not very easy. It's obviously going to be much more to your advantage if you have armor. And so it almost puts you at a disadvantage if you want to get in more gunfights because you risk losing that armor. I feel like some way needs to be implemented to where you're kind of rewarded in some way your armor or part of your armor back. I mean, if you're going to put yourself out there and get in gunfights, I feel like there needs to be some kind of armor repair kit that people automatically drop on their death stash, even if, like, it's not necessarily a consumable item that you pick up. Just every person that dies drops some kind of armor repair kit. Now, I think the best way to do this would be they find a way to how much percentage of armor you can get back. So maybe each dead body gives you a 25 or 30% increase to your armor, and you have to still go through their death stash and find that and pick that and equip that. That way you're not as screwed over for getting into gunfights and you say, well, you know, yeah, I won that gunfight, but now I lost my armor, and that guy that, oh, by the way, just randomly found that level 3 armor that's going to be sitting in the gas station up ahead in the corner, he gets to automatically win that gunfight, and he didn't really have to do anything for it. I understand BR is an RNG type game to where, you know, you're not guaranteed what you're going to get, but I just think the whole thing of to where it can, not all the time, Blackout's not heavily rewarding to campers or anything, but it can be if those kind of situations arise. You know, I don't feel like people that go out and want to get kills and want to get in a lot of engagements should kind of be screwed over by the fact that they can lose their armor, and it's not the easiest thing in the world to find. I would like to see that tuned in some way to where they can fix that and make it not as penalizing to people who want to get in gunfights. But anyway, that is going to do it for all of my changes that I want to see to Blackout. Those were kind of the big ones. I hit on a little smaller ones as well, but just kind of small little upgrades that maybe aren't so big, but they can help the game and kind of speed up the pacing, such as like looting and that kind of thing. But anyway, I want to know your guys' thoughts down below on Blackout. Do you agree with some of the things that I said wanted to be upgraded? Do you not agree with some of the things? Do you have some other things that maybe I didn't list? Leave that stuff down in the comments below. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to smack the submit and like button down below. If you guys are new to the channel and looking forward to reviewing content, you guys in the right place, hit the subscribe button down below as well. And turns out if you can so you guys know those videos go live. Hopefully you guys have a good one. I will see you guys on another video. So long, everybody.